You're listening to News Bite Scotland.
Welcome to the first episode of News Bites Scotland. My name is Peter Newman. I am a former political candidate, a journalist and a teacher, and have been for over 20 years. And I'm joined by the man whose idea this was and is very much the brains behind it, Michael McEwan, freelance journalist and disability rights campaigner. I should say that I am your Highland correspondent sat up here, and Michael is very much your Central Belt correspondent, so he's going to bring you all things urban. I get to do all the rural stuff. We will be a monthly podcast dealing with the big news of the month and your preview for what's coming up. So we're going to start with our January review. Hello, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Peter. It's nice to join you on a new podcast. I'm looking forward to this and working with you.
It's very exciting, isn't it? Like I said, it was a great idea of yours. And I should say we're very honoured to be hosted by Independence Live, your destination for all things arts and indie, really. And you can see at the bottom, if you're interested, artistforindie.scot. So we decided that the first major story in Scotland this year was the budget, which, Michael, what were your thoughts on the budget?
Well, yeah, before the debate, before the kind of like debate takes place in the Scottish Parliament, Peter, I don't know about you, but it's like the worst kept secret ever. You know what's actually going to happen, and I think that the best way to describe the kind of debate on the budget is like a political football, but it's got 10 times worse this year because of the election and stuff like that. All the other parties, obviously you've got the government of the day, the SNP, but all the other parties stand up and make big speeches about, why are you cutting this? Why are you cutting that? But they don't actually come forward with any suggestions to say, yeah, let's put more money into, social housing or health or whatever. So it really, I don't know about you, Peter, but it really frustrates the hell out of me when I see that, because you'd be better not watching it because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that was particularly true this year, where Labour had already said they weren't going to vote for or against it. And by abstaining, the SNP knew they could get their budget through. So it wasn't going to be, there was no drama in it, really. I agree with you to an extent. I feel like it would be nice if people came with actual proposals and solutions and made it a debate. And that was what the Scottish Parliament was designed to try and do. And it's arguable that it's not really living up to its ideals. I suppose the headline thing is that they've messed around with the tax rates. So the thresholds for both intermediate and basic rates of income tax in Scotland have been increased by 7.4%, which means that if you get a pay rise of less than that, you won't lose it to that. The higher advanced and top rate tax remain at their current thresholds, which means that you'll get what's called fiscal drag. So anybody that gets an increase in pay and moves into those categories will then start paying those rates. And of course, those, we know that we pay more in Scotland in those bands than if we live down south. But actually 55% of people now in Scotland will pay less than if they lived in England on that bottom sort of half, or just over half. So, yeah, it's not exactly thrilling stuff, is it? It doesn't make you whoop and cheer.
Yeah, it's not. I know, like, the beginning of the year is like a pleasant month generally, but if you watch the budget, it even makes it even more depressed.
I know, January, the month that seems to go on for a year. I suppose that there was some stuff. The one bit where I suppose you could argue that parties have kind of done what you were talking about was was actually in transport, where there's been some work with the Greens, there's been some work with some of the other parties. It was interesting, they've taken off peak season fares for residents of Orkney and Shetland on the Northern Isles ferry. So up here, that's obviously been very popular. There's investment in railways and the ferry fleet, and there's nearly 200 million for the dualling of the A9, key sections of the A96. That is a massive issue up here, the dualling of the A9. It comes up all the time. It's been used as a stick to beat the SNP with, because it's been going on for sort of over 20 years. I find it quite irritating on a number of things. I don't know if you've traveled the A9 recently, Michael, but it's so much better than it used to be. And it's a dangerous road, but not as much. It's controversial anyway, but every death is obviously a massive tragedy, and the A9 is quite dangerous. The causes of that are the thing that people are debating. And the other point that people seem to miss is that the A9 doesn't, they're actually talking about Perth to Inverness, but actually the A9 goes a really long way north of that, and an awful lot of accidents are actually up there, where you get sort of single carriageways and it's lots of tourists. There's going to be a new railway station at Winchburg near West Lothian, which will be interesting, and an air departure tax on all eligible passengers with the Highlands lines to be exempted, and they're going to levy a private jet tax. So we'll have to feel sorry for all those people with private jets. So, yeah, I mean, like I say, it's not the world's most thrilling. There's 22.5 billion for health and social care. And this concept that John Swinney announced at the SNP conference of walk-in 7-day GP clinics. But I suppose that's one of those things where the proof is in the pudding, right? The people will be excited when they happen, or if they happen.
I think I think if you listen to GPs like the day afterwards, they never knew that was going to happen. So you might have found that it is a brilliance in it if it happens, right? But you might have found he's only announcing that to get new voters across, or kind of lapsed or kind of lapsed voters back on side, because obviously this year's an election. It would be interesting if he announced it next year or even last year.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually in the room when he announced it, and genuinely, people, it was one of those events where people went, "Ooh," it's now. The NHS is, of course, one of those things that politicians get blamed for, but have relatively little control, or at least nothing like as much control as people actually think they do. So it's basically the actual health boards are the ones who run each individual. So each area is its own little island, weirdly. So although obviously it's devolved, actually it's devolved away from Holyrood, and quite a lot of people get on at Holyrood because of the funding and because of the blah blah blah, but you're actually seeing it play out at the moment with the stuff around the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. So for those who don't know, there's a big stramash over, was that hospital pushed to be opened early, were the infection controls not actually followed, but and it's all kind of landing on the government's lap. You're talking what, 15 years ago.
I found that quite interesting, Peter, that story coming out now because of the election. And you might find a lot more stories will come out between now and May. But I just felt that the timing, I don't know about you, but I felt the timing was a bit kind of, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And I think the other thing that's slightly weird about that is if you look at it seems to be pretty clear. So Anna Sarwar, who's the Scottish Labour leader, if people don't know, has used incredibly strong rhetoric about this, like quite for a politician, like quite shockingly, outright calling people liars and stuff. And yet it would appear that it was the health board, which is packed with Labour people. It was packed with Labour councillors. It's actually got people who are currently standing as Labour candidates, who were the people that were actually driving through this early opening and didn't follow the Scottish government's advice about the infection control. So it seems a very, very brutal sort of issue to pick. I don't know if it was actually a good idea for the Labour Party to do that, to be honest.
I mean, maybe there's some cliff in it. We don't know, but I just feel as though it is a bit funny coming out to what about I don't know how many weeks it is to the Parliament dissolves for the election, but I would imagine it's the end of February or whatever. So that the timings kind of like spot on. But as I said, I don't think you would have heard about it if there wasn't an election this year, or else maybe last year they wouldn't come up with it. I'm not sure. I'm only kind of looking into my crystal ball, Peter, here,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But we'll never know.
We won't.
You're listening to News Bites Scotland with Michael McEwan and Peter Newman.
So moving on, I think we should have a quick talk about, well, the weather. Who doesn't love a chat about the weather? So we were rocked with heavy snow and ice at the beginning of the new year. I was, in fact, literally snowed in for the first couple of weeks. And the school that I work at didn't reopen, along with a bunch of other Highland schools, because we were under such heavy snowfall. So what was it like for you, Michael?
Well, I would love to say we were the same, Peter, but we were kind of the opposite. We kind of like escaped it, apart from maybe 1 or 2 days where it wasn't snow, it was just kind of like icy underfoot. But no, we kind of like escaped the majority of it. It's quite funny when the bad weather comes, we don't seem to get it as bad up down here than you guys do up there, and also Aberdeen as well.
Yeah, the east. I mean, it's certainly, having lived on the west coast as well in the Highlands. I did live in Glasgow years ago, but it's noticeably so much warmer over there. You get, so it means that when they get snow, oh boy, do they get it. But actually, a lot of the time, it's just driving rain. Whereas over here, because in the sort of, in the north and the east, and in Aberdeen's case, the northeast, you get this, like you say, it's cooler, it's actually colder, and it's drier. And so, we get it quite frequently. But this was pretty special. This was, you were talking about sort of cleaning the car off and then opening the windows the next morning and going, oh, there's 6 inches of snow on top of the car, right. I'm not going anywhere here. And actually, the thing that really kind of stuck with it was the ice that remained for ages. And we just had days, we were -6 here. And it was cold. And you never got above freezing. And so you could just never melt. So there you go. And we've got another storm coming in that was battering us last night. So that's Storm Chandra. So the stormy weather carries on. I don't know, what was it like for yourselves?
Yeah, I'm actually just looking out my window here because I was sound asleep last night, and but no, I never kind of like heard anything. It's actually quite sunny here and now, but I don't know if that'll keep up. Maybe keep up for another 5 minutes. I'm not sure, but no, I think it's been okay. But in saying that, we still got the afternoon to go, and tomorrow and Friday. So yes, so we might get some as well.
Yeah, it seems to be coming, doesn't it? There's actually ferry routes are being disrupted. There's certainly warnings for rain, snow, and wind, and some major roads being closed. So we shall see.
You're listening to News Bites Scotland with Michael McEwan and Peter Newman.
So the next topic that we're going to take a bite out of is one that's quite interesting. It might not have direct consequences for Scotland yet, but Mr. Burnham, Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Manchester, who has been blocked by the Labour Party from standing in a by-election in Manchester to return to the House of Commons. Presumably, we know he was blocked by Keir Starmer at an NEC meeting, and he won the vote 8-1. Deputy Prime Minister Lucy Powell voting for, Deputy Party Leader, Lucy Powell voting for her chum Andy. Your thoughts, Michael?
Well, when we spoke about what we're going to be talking about today, and there's a lot of good topics that we're going to cover, Peter, but this was one of the ones where, pardon the pun, I'm dying to get my teeth into to get a bite, or maybe the other way about, because I said to you when we were speaking on the phone, because we don't just rock up and do this. We have a meeting in over about 5 hours or something to talk about what we're going to talk about. Maybe not 5 hours, but I was saying to you that I don't feel that there's any kind of democracy anymore. As well, and I can go on and on for ages about people changing parties and whatever. But I mean, if people want to stand for the party, they shouldn't be. It's a bit like what we're going to talk about in a wee while, football and rugby. It's a bit like a foul. People standing in people's way just because they can't stand for a party. That's not right.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. So Andy Burnham appears to be the only person who, in polls, is coming out ahead of Keir Starmer. So interestingly, despite Keir Starmer having a massively, dreadful rating by the public in all of the polls, nobody within the party we're streeting Angela Rayner nobody is actually saying that they would do a better job. So it's, which is interesting because, of course, they continue to sink in the polls, and yet. But the only person who that is excluded from that is Andy Burnham. Now, Burnham was incredibly successful as a mayoral candidate. He took over 60% in every single borough of Manchester. So, I mean, that is an election result to juggle with. And Andy Burnham clearly thinks he could be the next prime minister. He certainly thinks he could do a better job than Keir Starmer. I suppose, I mean, you're right in terms of the democratic aspect of it. I actually think it's also a political mistake. What I don't understand is Mayor of Manchester is quite a big job. Being a backbench MP is not really. It's nothing like in terms of actual control that Burnham and actually can do things. So Burnham's like taking the bus companies back into public ownership and has actually done a lot of stuff on rough sleeping and has had some kind of things that you can point to as achievements. He probably wouldn't be able to do any of that as a backbench MP. So it seems a very weird. Now I get he can snipe and create trouble for Keir Starmer, but it seems a very short-sighted decision by Starmer, because Starmer looks fragile and looks like he's running from Burnham, but also he could have said, no, I'm strong enough to see this guy off, and backed himself and said, no, you run, old love, on you go, and then stuck him on the back benches and said, well, this guy, this guy that's not doing anything. So instead, he's upset him. He's upset his supporters. He's left him in a position with quite a lot of power, and he hasn't, he could have put him in Parliament and humiliated him every day. So there's a kind of lack of strategic thought, I think, which makes me think one of two things. Either Keir Starmer is not very good at politics. Let's not rule that out. But also, is it that he doesn't think they'll win the mayoral election would come in the wake of his letting him stand as an MP, right? Which tells you that I think he realizes the party might be done. I think he's desperately trying to avoid putting actual defeat front and center, because I think there's a good chance Reform may well take it. Now to go from Andy Burnham having won over 60% in each district to then losing the mayoral election would look really, really bad. By all accounts, in that NEC meeting, he put his case very strongly. And he said he liked Andy Burnham, which I think probably wasn't true, but that now was not the right time.
I think that was a bit of media speak there, Peter.
Do you think? Yeah. do you think he knew in an open meeting that he shouldn't say I hate this guy?
Yeah.
I think you might be right.
I mean, I don't know about you, right? But you're right in saying what you're saying, because if Scammer was very confident, right, that he was going to win that contest, if there was going to be a contest, well, I think there would be. Why not say, okay, in you come then?
Yeah.
But, I don't know if he's running scared or whatever. And then that brings me back to another conversation for another day. Is like, now I'm not sure. In today's society, I think we've got two sets of politicians. We've got a politician that wants to be a politician, that wants to help the area, like Andy Burnham in Manchester, and he's been brilliant for Manchester, or politics, or people move into politics just to say, you know what, I'm your local MP, I'm brilliant, you can't touch me. So I know that's a different debate and a different podcast, maybe, but like when you, I don't know about you, but I think there's a bit of truth in that. But in terms of like Andy Burnham, I'm not actually sure. And there's a lot of kind of, in my opinion, there's a lot of backstabbing in politics as well. Maybe that's why I'm not here and not in Hollywood today. Just because it's cold outside, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, put it this way, why not? What's to be scared of?
Well, I think you used a football analogy earlier, and I think actually this is like a football manager who the results are going really badly, and he's had the dreaded board of vote of confidence from the board. And I think Starmer's just embattled, and I think he can't see the strategic wood for the trees. And this reminds me a bit of when Klopp was absolutely pulling up trees at Borussia Dortmund, and the Liverpool, the Liverpool board were coming to get him, and I can't even remember who the Liverpool manager was at the time, but you knew he was doomed because Klopp was coming, and I think it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
And I think he's suffered massively from a lack of confidence.
You're listening to News Bites Scotland with Michael McEwan and Peter Newman.
But we better move on because we are halfway through our allotted runtime and we have barely scratched the surface. So we were going to have a little chat about previewing what's coming up in February, which is, I found one of those rarest of rare things, Michael. I found a good news story. So it turns out that we are the sick man of Europe no more. The risk of dying from cancer in Scotland is at its lowest rate on record. So Public Health Scotland show that cancer mortality rates fell by almost a quarter, 23% between the year 2000 and 2024, dropping from 379 per 100,000 people to 288. The past decade saw rates fall by 12.1%. So that's basically in the lifespan of the Scottish Parliament, nearly a quarter of a century, and we've basically reduced it by 1% a year. That's quite fun, isn't it?
Yeah. Brilliant news. I'm dying to see that making the headlines as well, because it is a big story, for people all over Scotland, people down here, and people up your neck of the woods as well. So yeah, it's something to celebrate as well, and it just goes to show you that they've been working on magazine for years, and coming up with accessible treatment for everyone. So it is a good story, yeah.
Yeah, and almost 3/4 of all cancer deaths occurred in people over 70. So in actual fact, you've got it's the idea that something's going to get you eventually, but if you can prolong that, and if if you can make it, then that's good. And I noticed there was a thing actually. It was a UK government announcement yesterday about bowel cancer screening in England that they're bringing in, and actually what they're doing is they're following the Scottish model. So Scotland and Wales already do sort of quite regular bowel cancer screening for people over 50, and it's obviously clearly had a really positive effect. So it's really nice. Whether there's much to debate about it, I don't know. No, there's not really. No one's going to argue it's a bad thing, but.
I think the only thing I would say very quickly on that, Peter, I know that we spoke about the budget and all that, maybe Andy Burnham to it. Well, maybe not. I'll leave Andy out of it, right? But it gets the Scottish budget. And I know politics is politics, right? But when it comes to finding a solution for cancer and all the rest of it, they should be actually working together. There should be no politics in it. It should be like a small P instead of a big P.
Totally agree. It should be completely bipartisan, shouldn't it? Because there's no, if I totally agree.
You're listening to News Bites Scotland with Michael McEwan and Peter Newman.
Okay. We're just going to do this one quickly as well. It looks like coming up, Scotland-France ferry could relaunch amid a £35 billion Dunkirk regeneration plan. Insert your own Second World War jokes here. So a new cargo and passenger ferry service directly linking Scotland and France, it's the Old Alliance, Michael, could launch this year as part of the Port of Dunkirk embarks on a €40 billion regeneration program. So it would see Rosyth in Firth, in Fife, and Dunkirk. And that's 8 years after the last freight ferries linked Scotland to mainland Europe and 16 years after passenger service stopped. So that would be good because I don't know about you, but I feel like at times we've been trapped on a Brexit plague island in the last few years. So it would be quite nice to have a direct link to Europe again.
Yeah. Oh no! Don't say Brexit. I'll be here all day, and you don't want that.
Big fan, are we, Michael? Big fan.
Yeah. I've got my scarf in the cupboard now, Peter, and I've got the full Monty. But no, I mean that is another kind of positive story, kind of like countries working together.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? And the fact that we're another little good. This is an aside, but I noticed that Hannah Bardell, who used to be the Livingston MP for years, yesterday was given. So she'd been on the Council of Europe for about 10 years as an SNP sort of representative, and she just got given an honorary lifetime membership of the Council of Europe. And I know, like you say, let's not do Brexit. That's a whole nother day of delight, but I have to say, you do feel like there's that European thing of like, we'll leave a light on for you, Scotland.
Yep.
That does seem to be true. There does seem to be an appetite within the European Union to see, if not the UK, at least Scotland back. And I think we stuff like this feels positive. It's not. It's not a huge announcement in many ways. It will, like you said, it will slip under the radar a wee bit. But I mean, how positive! Like, great. At least we can get back there again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you hear stories about Hannah Bardell and getting in the morgue and stuff like that, you're thinking, well, maybe in the background. How far in the background? I'm not sure, but it's still there.
It is. It feels maybe like quite a dim light, but it is still there. They have left the light on for us, which is good news.
You're listening to News Bites Scotland with Michael McEwan and Peter Newman.
So there you go. That's a little bite for you, which was nice and positive. We are also drawing your attention to events that are coming up over your centre. So the one that started on the 15th of January, but does in fact run till February, is Celtic Connections. Michael, what do you know about Celtic Connections?
I'm afraid to say I haven't been to any Celtic Connection stuff in my life. I probably get a lot of people emailing us. I
was going to say, give your head a shake, man.
Yeah, I know. I think the closest thing I've been to Celtic Connections is another. It's just to mention Robbie Burns because every year they have I don't know about you, Peter, but every year they have a Burns concert in the Royal Concert Hall, and it's on BBC. So I watch that kind of like I've only watched it the past few years it's been on, and something that actually makes you proud to be Scottish and listen to all the music, and it's okay. It's fair enough. It's music you hear every year, but I don't care. I like listening to it. What about yourself?
No, I'm the same. I'll be honest with you. I've actually never been to any of the Celtic Connections either, although I at least have the excuse that I live quite a long way away. I can tell you that the young man who presented that Burns night on BBC Scotland, Ali, I actually know a little bit. He's a lovely guy. And just for those who don't know, Celtic Connections is the traditional music sort of Glasgow event of the year, and it brings together people from all over the world. And Michael's right, there is a real sense of pride. You know, that Burns stuff genuinely is a worldwide thing. People come from all over the globe, and Celtic Connections does a bunch of fusion music as well. But it's mainly, I don't know whether people are aware of this, but the idea of a ceilidh, you know, if you say a ceilidh to people, most people will think of like a quite formal dance and that sort of stuff. But an actual ceilidh, in the traditional sense, is just people in a kitchen just getting crack and playing music and just having fun. Like it's just, I mean, it's what you used to call an empty. You know, it's just people in the house. But so for those who are interested, by Sunday, the 1st of February, they've got new voices. So Amy Lawrenson is playing at the Glasgow Concert Hall. They've got the Young Traditional Music of the Year. So that's trad players from all over the country. Danny Card is an open stage at the Royal Concert Hall. There's Trad on Tap at the Innocent Gun Brewery. Guitar Summit. So Anna Massey, who's a huge draw, JP Cormier, Tony McManus, Julie Tapp. You know, there's loads of people. They're all playing at the Drygate Brewery. So there's events all over the city. So I'd strongly advise people to get out and have a look at that. Up our way, if you're interested, not quite as accessible, I suppose, to many, we've got the Fort William Mountain Festival coming up between the 12th and the 15th of February. So that's only a couple of hours north of Glasgow, if you're interested. And that covers all sorts of bonkers stuff. So swimming, snow sports, paddling, nature, biking, climbing, running. They do music, films, arts. It's great fun, actually. I would advise you to get your tickets booked and your accommodation booked early if you're going to head up to the Fort William Mountain Festival. There's some of that's truly bonkers what people do, but they absolutely love it. And at the end of February, you've got something that I have been to in the past, is the Glasgow Film Festival, which I love. Have you ever been to any of those, Michael?
Yeah, so it runs from the 25th of February to the 8th of March. And yeah, I've been to a few kind of like events in the past where they have a big kind of like, I think it's on the first night or maybe the last night, I can't remember, but it's in the Glasgow, the GFT.
What a venue, by the way. I love that building.
The classic venue. It's been there for years as well. So, but yeah, I mean, so all the kind of big names of the film industry is in Glasgow for that particular night. They have kind of like awards as well. But yeah, it's good to see that Glasgow's been kind of like put on the map for many, many years now. And I mean, don't forget, Peter, that Glasgow's been used for, especially George Square, that they do upsets in there to make films. Like, I think Spider-Man was here last year.
Yeah, and I think Batman as well at one stage.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Peter, I know, I don't know if it's going to be shown at the Glasgow Film Festival, but after when we finish having our big 10-hour meeting last night about the show, by the way, it's going to keep going up by hours, so
loving it.
But by Christmas it'll be like 40 hours to prepare for a podcast. But I don't know if you know, you seen the film I Swear?
I haven't seen it. I've seen the trailer. Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say that I Swear has been nominated for a BAFTA this year.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I saw that last night in the news, and I thought, well, that'll be good to touch upon it today on the podcast. If you've not seen it, go and see it. I would recommend it, and I think it highlights people with Tourette's and and stuff. It's on for like an hour and a half, but it really gets the message across, Peter.
Just for people who haven't seen it, it's the true story of a boy who had Tourette's, correct? Is that that right?
Yeah, it's based on a true story. I can't remember the guy's name offhand. In fact, he was getting interviewed last night, but it's based on him, and it follows his journey right the way from school to adulthood, and yeah, it's very interesting, and it's a bit of a kind of like roller coaster as you could imagine, Peter. It's not kind of like straightforward, and they falls out with, you know, his family members and all that. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, I mean, I would go and see it, and when I come out watching that film, I felt very kind of upbeat, very kind of like, oh right, okay, this is good, this is, but films and obviously the Glasgow Film Festival should be showing films like this to raise awareness of people's disability or you know different ethnicity, if I can say that one, with my teeth up the right way up. You know, to highlight that, and I think the festival is a good thing to bring everybody together, just to watch films and talk about them and have discussion panels and all the rest of it. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping to go this year.
It looks like it's got some absolutely fantastic films scheduled. I mean, from classics like Doctor Strangelove, In the Name of the Father, Al Pacino in Serpico. They're showing All the President's Men, so they're doing quite a political thing as well. But yeah, I swear, the guy's called John Davidson, and he was in that documentary in the 80s, John's Not Mad. So I hadn't realized that I'd been nominated for a BAFTA. That's fantastic. I'd make sure that's been on my to watch list for ages.
You're listening to News Bites Scotland with Michael McEwan and Peter Newman.
But the clock is ticking away, so we are going to move on to sport, where you're going to teach me about the 3-horse Premiership title race, because I am out of my football at the moment. I have been distracted for a long time. So, who are the three? Is it Inverness, Cali?
No, well, maybe next season or the season after was or Ross County as well. That could be one season as well. But no, it's basically Hearts, Rangers, and Celtic. So for ages, you know, if you watch Scottish football or listen to Scottish football or go to Scottish football of the week, it's always like a 2-horse race. It's either Celtic or Rangers or Celtic. It's going to win the league. But this season, when January, and it's still quite tight, as it were, to see who wins the title. Hearts at top of the league, Rangers, and then Celtic is in third position, and also out with that, Peter, you've got like different stories in the league about like Hibs, Motherwell are putting good teams together, and yeah, anyone can beat anybody. You know, it's one of these kind of bonkers, random football seasons, and I think it's very good for Scottish football, because Scottish football's been known for years about the 2-horse race. Now we've got a 3-horse race as well, so that could going to be good for the game.
Absolutely, and it looks so. I'm just checking. Hearts are 4 points clear, actually.
Yeah,
which is fantastic. I mean, it's weird. Scottish football's always been bonkers, right? I mean, I for those who don't know, I have written, like, I was a football journalist for a while. I've done a lot of kind of sports, but I have kind of tapped out and moved more towards politics and stuff. So it's quite interesting coming back. But every time you come back to Scottish football, the whole thing is shaken up. You know, every season, whole teams have disappeared and come back. It's bizarre. But everybody's always kind of been able to beat everybody else, but no one's been able to do it over a season. You know, yeah. So there's always been one-off events and one-off results, but it looks like Hearts are really putting together a real charge at it. Has the return of Martin O'Neill helped Celtic?
Well, twice you would have to say one season. That's a bonkers one as well, Peter, because if people didn't know that, so Brendan Rodgers left, and I can't remember, I think it was like, say, it was before Christmas anyway, And then Celtic appointed Wilfred Nancy, and he only lasted 8 games, I would like to say. I can't remember offhand.
It was less than
And
Liz
then-
Truss, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he only managed to get 2 wins in that time, Peter. So he got sacked. That was a given. And lo and behold, the 72-year-old Martin O'Neill came back for a second stint, because Martin O'Neill was in before. When Brendan Rodgers left, Martin O'Neill was in for a caretaker charge. And then when Wilfred Nancy got the sack, Martin O'Neill came back. So he's now the permanent, well, I say permanent loosely, to the end of the season. And I think he's doing a good job, but his hands are kind of tied behind his back, because Celtic are not spending any money whatsoever. And talking to fans on my show and all that, they're really frustrated with the board as well. But so I mean, it's good to see Martin O'Neill back in the dugout and all that. But as I say, it's only good for Scottish football that there's a real title race on. And usually, but this time, a team that's chasing Celtic or Rangers falls away. But Hearts are not falling away; they're still right in there.
That's fantastic, isn't it? So that actually leads on. You were talking about frustrations. I believe you're a little bit frustrated. There's a story that you were telling me that fans are considering not wearing kilts to the World Cup.
Yeah,
what's that about, Michael?
Yeah, so I'm not actually going to the World Cup, so I'll just go with my kilt in the house as well. Yeah, so basically, as I'm trying to get the news story up here, so it came out, what is it, Peter, a few weeks ago, that Scotland isn't to wear the national dress to the World Cup. It will become central during the World Cup. And apparently they've actually ditched the kilt at wearing at the World Cup for this year. And I think it's a real shame, because when you go to these events, Peter, whether it's World Cups, Olympics, Commonwealth Games, to represent your country, you would like to see the supporters in the national dress. And obviously the national dress is the kilt. Now, the last time we were at a World Cup in 98, I don't know if you remember, but the Scotland team wore kilts to the games, and obviously they never played in kilts. Maybe that's why we get beat. So everybody was wearing kilts. The team, the fans, everybody going to France. But not last year in America, and I feel it's a real shame.
Is it a political statement? Is it a protest against Trump? Is that the idea?
I would like to think so. Because I don't want to say it's against people's human rights and all that kind of stuff, but people should wear what they want to at different kind of like events,
Yeah, I do. Right, so last 2 minutes, Michael. We're coming up on the end, and it is the Six Nations coming up in February.
Yeah, so the first thing I've noticed about the Six Nations this year, Peter, and I don't know why, but the opening game of the Six Nations, France against Italy, is on our Thursday night.
Yeah.
And I did hear somebody saying it's because of the Winter Olympics starts on the Friday night.
Oh, is that why? I did not know
Now,
that.
I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but I don't think that's got any relevance to the Rugby World Cup because the Winter Olympics is over in Italy this year. Obviously, the game's in France, so I'm not actually quite sure about it.
So it's France Island on that
Yeah.
Thursday, and then it is on the
Yeah.
Saturday is Italy against Scotland and England against Wales. I imagine it will be purely money and TV audiences. I don't think there's any. I think there's probably nothing more.
Yeah, I mean
I think it's just about money and TV audiences.
Yeah, I mean it's a pity because I was just talking about this last night as well, that everything's got to do with money and TV now, Peter.
Doesn't it? It's a cold, cold world. I would suggest that the biggest issue with Scotland is going to be injuries as ever and inconsistency. I think we've got some absolutely fantastic players, but boy, oh boy, do we need to string some performances together. However, England are coming to Murrayfield, which will give us a good chance to turn them over on our home patch, which would be nice.
I think honest would be England will be fine, but I mean, how many years have we said Scotland has only 2 games away from winning the Six Nations, and they managed to mess it up?
Michael, and this is a good place for us to end it because we're out of time. We have always managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, which is very apt because we're going to close our jaws and leave the first episode of Scotland Bites.
Very good. Yes.
Do you like that? How's that for a seamless link? Thank you so much for your idea of creating this podcast, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us on Social News Bites. You will be able to find us on X. We have got an email address that we'll post on there as well. We will be on YouTube, and I'll also put it on my Footsteps of Politics, which is another podcast that I do. So it'll be on that feed as well. So we'll have lots of different bites of the cherry, if you see what I did there, for you to get in touch with us.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. We'll see you on.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon, and thank you for listening or watching. Goodbye.